Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race, we are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 327 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited that you are here. We did miss our episode last week. I just wasn't able to get it together. And next week, we will be having a solo recap episode, followed by a 2-week break. It's not something I typically do with this podcast, but I'm really trying to be more gentle with myself and not pushing too hard. And I encourage you to do the same when you can. And so today, I'm excited to welcome my guest to the show today. And she has been a trailblazer in the absolute best way. And so I am excited to welcome Cheryl Toussaint to the podcast today. Cheryl is an Olympian who mainly ran in the 800 meters, but she was a part of the silver medal winning 4x4 relay team for the US, even after she lost her shoe and competed barefoot in the qualifying race, which you're going to hear. Pretty incredible story. She's someone who has really had a goal since her own running career of bringing up girls to pursue excellence in their own way. And you're going to hear about how she's been a part of, or the games that she is a part of and is talking about today has become a part of 29 girls who have become Olympians. So Cheryl is here today to talk about the Colgate Women's Games, which was founded by Fred Thompson. And it's just a really cool initiative. And Cheryl has been the meet director since 2015. This is something she's extremely passionate about. It is really amazing to learn about. And so I'm excited to dig into that today, but also her journey to that moment and her message to runners out there and what we can learn. So let's check in with one of our sponsors and we'll get right to this episode with Cheryl Toussaint. I try to eat all the fruits and vegetables I can in my diet, but I'm also not perfect at it. I do enjoy my foods, and sometimes that means choosing things that aren't packed full of vegetables and fruits, because that's what life is about, right? Fueling our bodies with whole foods is important, but every one of us is going to have nutrient gaps, including me. And that is why I start my day with AG1. It ensures that I'm filling any nutritional gaps. It means I can enjoy going out to eat and not feel pressure to eat a certain thing, because I know I'm supporting my whole body health by starting my day off with a scoop of AG1. AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that delivers daily nutrients and gut health support and is backed by multiple research studies, so you can trust what you're putting into your body. I trust AG1 because, unlike so many products, the entire formula is backed by research studies, not just the ingredients. AG1 is packed with a variety of nutrient-dense ingredients and is the perfect complement to every healthy diet. I drink it every day because I know it gives me peace of mind. I can tell when my body isn't functioning the way that it should, particularly when it comes to digestion and my gut. Recently, they found in a research study, AG1 doubled the amount of healthy bacteria in the gut, including 2 species known for supporting gut and whole body health. If there's one product I trust to support my whole body, it's AG1, and that's why I've partnered with them for so long. It's easy and satisfying to start your journey. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/Tina. That's drinkag1.com/Tina. Check it out. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining me today on the Running for Real podcast. And today is an exciting day because we will announce why that is in just a minute. But I want to welcome you to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. And I've always found the greatest interest in people who find a purpose in life, find something that is important to them that they want to bring to life beyond their own hopes and dreams for what they want to achieve. And you have clearly done that. We're going to go into what that means in this episode. But one of the things I want to begin with is learning about one of the most influential people in your life that kind of got you to this purpose and made it possible for this event to happen. And every year, and I'll start now by saying that we are talking about the Colgate Women's Games, which as of tomorrow, if you're listening to this episode on the day it comes out, we'll be celebrating its 49th anniversary. And registration opens tomorrow. So with that, we're talking about the Colgate Women's Games, which is the nation's longest running track and field series for girls, has a focus on education, athletic excellence, and it was founded by your coach and mentor, Fred Thompson. So we're going to go into your story in a little while, but I want to begin with him because this is a topic that I find particularly interesting as we're going to learn about how high you ran in your own running career. But you also were able to do so much just having that voice, that person who could take you to where you needed to go, where you had the potential to go. And I always talk about in my own athletic journey how important that coach as a teenager was to me. So I want to begin with that. Fred, tell us about the first moment you remember Fred kind of, I don't know, I guess the first moment you acknowledged that there was a human over there. What were your first impressions of him?
So I thought, gee, this person is very strict.
Yep.
He's very strict. Anyway, Fred was out coaching his young runners, the Adams Track Club. I was just 13 and I stumbled upon an event, a track meet, the first that I'd ever been to. And I saw Fred in the middle of the field. Circled around him were a bunch of young girls of all ages who he was speaking to in a very firm tone, letting them know that what they had just done in the competition that day was great, but now they had to get ready and practice. And he was just giving them instructions and giving them pros and cons of what he saw and what his expectations were for them. And I, at age 13, having never been involved in sports, having never been around an organized team or a coach, not knowing what a coach really was, I found that fascinating. I found that everyone was giving him the utmost attention because what he was saying was of interest to them. It was empowering them to reflect on what they had just done and to think about what they had to do. Now, for teenage girls or boys, anyone, youngsters who are in, as a group, just really seeing them focus and absorb every single word he was saying, was to me fascinating. Teens, and especially today, you're holding their attention for very long isn't always the easiest thing to do. So witnessing this, I felt like, wow, this looks like something different and interesting. And then I sat back and watched what was going on, and the girls were practicing and they were doing their drills, and they just seemed to be having a pretty enjoyable time. The camaraderie was there. They were pushing and, cheering each other on at practice, encouraging each other. And I was watching how he was reacting to each and every one of them. He had a special relationship with the team at large, but he also saw that each individual had their own strengths and weaknesses, and he was calling them out. And I thought, wow, you felt, I mean, years later, I learned what that does for a young athlete, for a young person, to be seen, to be recognized, for someone who really isn't even related to you to shout, or I should say, call out instructions that are helpful to you, to help you become more self-aware, for you to eventually become more self-determined because of it. So he was an attorney by profession, and he was a former runner, and he was a coach. He wanted to give back to his community some of the things that he felt empowered him to achieve in his own personal life.
Yeah.
And being, that times being what they were back in the early 60s, mid 60s, and into the 70s, there was a lot of need in our communities, the community I grew up in, underserved communities, to have some sort of organized, structured program for kids in the community. At that time, he was coaching boys and girls, and eventually spun off and worked with the girls. So at an impressionable age that I was then, and all the athletes who were on his team were, it really started to help you focus on where you wanted to go, what you wanted to do. Was this important enough for you to dedicate your time to? Maybe not hang out and go to parties or do what other teens your age were doing. Because at the end of the day, it was an organized, structured program that required discipline, dedication, sacrifice. And to be a part of this team, you really had to you had to show that you were willing to do these things. So lots of positive results came out as a result of it. But yeah, it was an amazing experience for a teenager to see.
Yeah, I think there's a reason I wanted to begin with this, because I think everyone listening can probably look back to someone in those formidable, someone who was important in those, critical years of your life, who, as you said, was not a family member, not required to care for you or do anything to help you really, but planted some kind of seed in you, or in your case, like just was in your line of eyesight and therefore consciousness, and you had that craving to be a part of it. I really wanted to encourage people listening to think about who that person was for you. And the reason this drew me in so much was anyone who's listened to this podcast for a long time, Cheryl, knows that I talk about my coach, who I met also at age 14, my running coach, and how I would never have done what I did without him, even though he didn't go on to coach me when I was running professionally. The things I learned from him, I still take with me to this day. And so I think I love thinking through and hearing from people who that person was for them. And for you, it was clearly Fred. So then let's step back a second and find out, how did you end up at that point where you got to see Fred, where you got to be around Fred? If this was a new experience for you, what led you to that moment?
So I was pretty active as a young girl. Used to love to run around and race, and used to race all the boys on the block, and was kind of known as one of the fastest girls or kids on the block. Mm-hmm. And, but I didn't really have any structure going on in terms of motivation to do anything other than what kids do as teenagers at home. I feel in many ways I was searching for an outlet, not knowing even that I was searching for an outlet. I was searching for an outlet to feel like I belonged to something that would actually motivate me to pull the best out of myself. Not that I was bad or anything, but in my neighborhood, there weren't many structured programs or much going on at that time. There was a tremendous challenge for girls and teens to complete high school, not be a high school dropout, not get pregnant, finish school. The talk of college education wasn't even in the conversation. For me, I felt like as a teenager, I was searching for that thing to do that would inspire me and move me. And while I was not sure that it would be sport, I was always told that, this is something you probably would be good at. And a bunch of kids in my neighborhood were going to this event. And they said, well, you should go. You think you're so fast. Why don't you go race some real runners, And I thought, okay, let's give it a shot. And I went out. So I wasn't intending to do anything other than race that day. I had no idea that this was an organized program that I would become a part of. But I liked what I saw and I liked how it made me feel. Most youngsters are looking for leadership and they're looking for structure, even though they don't know it.
Yeah.
So once I saw that and I found that kind of sort of drew me in further because I realized wow, I do like this. This is something that's good for me. And so, I was raised by my grandmother and my mom, and there was no real push to become a part of anything outside of the household. And of course, education as far as pursuing college wasn't a conversation. But that all changed the moment I got involved with running track and the Adams Track Club. And of course, the story of the Colgate Women's Games and why I feel so passionate about making sure his legacy with the Adams and through the Colgate Women's Games continues to live on.
Mm-hmm. To get to that, what happened between that moment where you ran that race? You saw Fred talking to the other girls afterwards. Did you go up to him and kind of start that curiosity process? Yeah, tell us about that.
I did. I did because I thought, well, I don't know what this is all about, but I kind of like it and I would like to see how I can become a part of it. And his attitude was the door is open to any young girl who is willing to walk through it, who is looking to better herself and willing to take and, follow his coaching instruction. So I asked and he looked at me. He kind of looked at me up and down like, you sure you want to do this? And I thought, yeah. He said, well, just show up to practice on Monday or whatever it was after school and join in. And I did that and I continued to go for quite a while until one day I got discouraged and I quit. Oh. And I decided I don't want to do this anymore. And that was really just kind of a fluky thing. But
I was going to say, it's not like teenagers are ever impulsive, is it?
Yeah. I needed to learn and understand what it really meant to be a part of a team in an organized sport. And that everybody has a role to play and a responsibility to show up. And so not understanding his methodology in terms of not so much weeding out who's serious and who's not, but definitely making it clear that if you really were serious about the time that he was devoting to what we were doing, you had a role to play. So it wasn't about, when I used to hear him cheer on different girls who were doing different things, and I guess he didn't know me well enough at that point, but I wouldn't hear the calls coming from across the track for me. I'm thinking, am I not doing something right? Am I not putting forth the effort? And I realized that his thing was, you need to be out there putting forth the effort to do your best, whether you hear cheers or not. Mm-hmm. Like, that is not what you're running for. That is not why you're out here. You're going to be in plenty of situations where you will not hear cheers, or the cheers will not be for you. And his thing was, I need to see you. I need to see what's coming out of you, why you're doing this, why you're a part, why you want to be a part of this. So, he really doled out, I guess you would say, the cheers and the I can't find the right word,
like encouragement,
and sort of encouragement based on what he saw coming from you or me. And at that point where I didn't understand as a teenager, I just thought, well, I'm not sure if this is for me. But I went back with my tail between my legs when I realized I missed this. I missed being out there. I had tons of fun. I learned a lot. I saw myself improving. Why did I even walk away from this? I miss it. I saw the girls going to different competitions, suited up, having fun before the competition and after, and just talking about all sorts of promising things, like that they were going to do, that they were going to try. And of course, the talk about, at that time, high school, graduation and then college. And I thought, I feel like I'm missing out. I want to go back. And when I went back that day, I walked in and he just looked at me and said, "Are you ready to go to work?" And I was like, yes. And that was it.
Thank you to Runna for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. You have heard me talking about Runna. It's the #1 rated running coaching app in the world. They are on a mission to make running as easy, effective, and as enjoyable as possible. You heard Rob talking about this, how Runna was his companion. It helped him to get ready for Berlin, how he ended up running a PR after many years of not running marathons. Runna is really going to take you to where you want to go. Yes, I am still returning from my injury, from my surgery, which means I am not ready yet to jump on a Runna plan, but I am excited to do that. They create personalized plans for all abilities, ranging from those of us who are starting our running journeys from scratch, as I will be soon, or if you are even from the very beginning of your journey as a couch to 5K runner. They go all the way up to elite marathoners, and the plans are built by Olympic athletes, expert coaches, and they are not only going to have your runs on there, but your strength and conditioning plans. It's going to have integrated mobility and Pilates plans. It syncs with your calendar. And best of all, you can connect with other like-minded runners in the community section. So you have heard myself talking about Runna. You've probably heard other people talking about Runna. It is fantastic to have these personalized running plans just for you. They use AI to tell you what it suggests that you should be doing next. You can also reject or accept those suggestions as it goes through the training plan. It's going to sync with your devices, give you all kinds of support. And you, as a friend of mine, can get yourself 2 weeks for free by using code RUNNINGFORREAL. That's running, FORREAL, running for real. And that's going to get you 2 weeks off a plan with Runna. Go check it out. Rob loves it. I love it. I can't wait to use it. And it is well worth a look. Look up the Runna app, RUNNA. That's RUNNA. Go check it out and use code RUNNINGFORREAL. I love that. And from there, you two, once you were kind of in that stage of you being prepared to do what you need to do, Fred with his driven by purpose approach, you were able to do great things. And we're going to go on to those in just a minute. But before I do go on with that, why do you think it's so important to instill now that you are someone who is a part of doing this yourself, why is it so important to instill that sense of purpose and doing something for you, being prepared to work for it, being prepared to grind for it? Why is that important to get that into the minds of people who are really growing and figuring out who they are?
So it's critical because it is what is going to sustain them throughout their lives. To have those qualities that you learn from the sport, those are without a doubt among the most important qualities, and of course the lessons learned from it, that are not just for the sport. It's for every endeavor you pursue in your lifetime afterwards. So as a youngster, and again, with the Colgate, with the Adams Track Club, he started athletes from, I think, 5 years old. And of course, with Colgate Women's Games, the same thing. It is the best time to catch young athletes when they're most impressionable and they're most willing to accept. I mean, these are hard lessons to learn.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can't be taught at home or even in school. Sometimes they're best learned in the physical sense, where you actually have to apply yourself to improve whatever it is. So the self-discipline, the perseverance, even dealing with, defeat, humiliation, just learning how to pick yourself back up and drive forward, even in the face of embarrassment, learning to, just flick it off your shoulder and get on with the next thing. The earlier those skills are learned, the more helpful it is to the individual. Mm-hmm. So as far as I'm concerned, these type of program, it should start then. I mean, why wait until an athlete is almost person is almost an adult before they're introduced to those types of skills sets? And I feel that this is exactly what you learn in track and field. Yeah. You learn to apply yourself. You learn to go back and do some introspective thinking. You look inside of yourself. You just learn to control your emotions. And everything about you as a person surfaces in front of you. You're like literally looking at the woman in the mirror and trying to assess, who that is, who you want it to be. And now you're empowered with tools to be able to effectuate that. So it's really wonderful to see young athletes. I mean, I can't wait till we get to talking about what I see in the young girls that come through the program that I'm working with in the games, because I get inspired by what I see them doing. And sometimes I have to step back and think about, I was one of those young people. And the same thing happened for me, so I can relate, but it's incredible. It's just something that's not taught in a textbook. It's not something you can buy or pay for. It is intuitive. You learn it on the fly and as you go. Mm-hmm. And there's such valuable or invaluable skills and experiences.
If someone listening to this has some kind of group that they, maybe they're the coach of a local league with their child's school, or maybe they like to volunteer with a group on the weekends, or at a meet at some point in the year, what would you remind people, and just in that sense of the potential for ability to shape someone's life or start them down a path, or just be that person who sets those skills in motion in them? What would you remind someone?
That, first of all, that to impart upon them that there's no failure in trying to succeed. A lot of athletes, a lot of people are afraid to fail and sometimes afraid to exceed or, to achieve or excel in what they're doing because of the fear of failure. Yep. So it's never too early or too late to start to instill that you can jump in at any time. Mm-hmm. The moment you start, you're on your journey to be that person or to improve that skill set or drive, find energy and drive to propel yourself to that level that you're trying to get to. So, any coach or any person who wants to help a young person, can either, try looking for a coach or mentor for them, and certainly a team or a program like the Adams, like the Colgate Women's Games, because that's why we're there. Yeah. That's what we do. It's all about empowering young girls to discover their talent, to hone their skills, to develop into the athletes that they want to be, all at the same time, while at the same time being focused on one of the main purposes of being involved in a program like the Colgate Women's Games. And for me, having been involved with the Adams, is education and improving your life through education. And the fact that all these particular programs provide an outlet and a pathway to, earn scholarships to support your education. Yes, developmental series. Yes, it's a track program and it's athletics, but the underlying drive is you're not just running around in circles. There's an ultimate goal here. And for me, it was that opportunity to pursue higher education.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest lessons that you took or maybe are still taking in your life as a runner yourself that you feel translated or taught you could do things in your education and then ultimately your career?
So, first of all, community. It's all about community and the support system that surrounds you. I felt that being in the sport itself, there's so many like-minded people that are constantly encouraging each other. We feed off of each other's positive energy. And of course, that can propel you to any level. I mean, we're not operating in a vacuum. We're building community. And I love that aspect of what I've experienced. And I like that aspect in what I do now. And that's why I'm a part of it. I am energized and I feel others are energized by the sense of community and mutual purpose. I think it elevates all of us.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And do you have a favorite moment from that kind of instantly comes to mind for you that really drilled that down and you made that very clear from your running journey yourself?
As far as community, I felt, for me, starting from an athlete who had no skill really, to developing into an athlete who eventually became a role model and achieved some pretty, pretty high achievements in the sport of track and field. I was able to travel abroad I was able to represent the country in all sorts of competitions abroad, including the Olympic Games. And I feel that I brought my entire family, community with me. I know when I represented the United States at the Olympic Games. I know when I speak on behalf of my teammates, my family, the athletes that I work with in the Colgate Women's Games, that I am sort of representing our entire community. And I feel that elevates all of us. And I know for me, I have dedicated my life in terms of what I do now professionally to making sure I continue to elevate that piece of what the Colgate Women's Games are all about, what I'm all about, why I continue to do it, why it's important. I still feel that the Colgate Women's Games is one of the best kept secrets in the world. Track and field is not as popular throughout the year, all year, in all parts of the country and the world. Running is.
Yeah.
Track and field is not.
Yeah.
And so that's why there's a struggle after the Olympics to keep it elevated and to tell the stories about it. And so for me, and track and field, by the way, is one of those sports where you're in a fishbowl, so to speak, when you're competing, and everybody is watching you compete, meaning that if you have a bad day at the office, so to speak, everybody kind of sees it. You're not on the road somewhere where nobody sees that mishap. And for track and field, you basically run a shorter distance compared to, say, distance running, where you've got to really put it all together in that short period of time and perform. It's all about the performance that people see. And so for what we do as indoor track and field, as an indoor track and field event, I feel the Colgate Women's Games makes it is so important to keep that elevated, because there are not a lot of opportunities to have for the sport. And we're like there are only two major venues in our neck of the woods. So having the event year round, going on 50 years soon, it is critical. And it represents, for the most part, a third of an athlete's training season for the year. So without the competition and the indoor venues and the training grounds to be able to have it from December, say, to March, they're losing ground as far as their sport. In other words, it's not an event that can be run all year round, but it is a critical time during the during the winter months to have the event. And that is why I feel like it is so important to have this event be known and people come out and support it.
If you have seen me talking about sustainability anywhere online, chances are you've heard me talking about one thing more than anything else in particular, and that is the HydroPack Speed Flask 350. This is one of my favorite items of all time. I think it is ideal for everyone, from a 5K runner to a marathon runner to an ultra runner. Although if you're an ultra runner, you may want to go for the 500 instead of the 350 mils. But the Sky Flask Speed is one of the best ways you can be sustainable. You can minimize the amount of waste that you're producing at races, but also take care of you and your performance. I actually think it will help us to run faster with not having to take down the cups, with not having to slow down. You can sip at your own pace, with the flip top lid for easy refill. It takes just seconds to refill it. And then you can drink that water down, or that electrolytes down, that liquid down at your own comfortable fit pace. I love this Sky Flask speed. I love working with HydroPack. As a friend of mine, you can get 10% off by using code TinaMuir10 at hydropack.com. This item is going to squish down really nicely. So when you're done with it, you can stuff it in your waistband or in a pack or in a vest or in a belt. It is really easy to adjust the hand strap. And as I said, I have that speed fill cap. It is fantastic. Go to HydroPack, that's HYDRAPAK.com, and use code TinaMuir10 for 10% off. You mentioned there about community being such an important piece of what you do and why you do it. I also noticed that the community side of running within the road running world is extremely popular right now. It's why a lot of people got into the sport, why they continue to do the sport. And I was just curious with the Colgate Women's Games, how you are continuing to seek and bring that sense of community to track and field when, as you mentioned, all eyes don't manage to stay on track and field year round. It doesn't hold the attention in the same way. So how do you look to the community piece to continue, driving awareness to the event, but just also in track and field in general, that this can be a community-based event?
So it is a community-based program, and we reach out to those who are already a part of that community. But it is a constant challenge to make sure that we get the word out to all eligible members that can participate in the games. Indoor track and field is not popular all over the country. So while it is critical for athletes who live on the East Coast, who don't have access to training facilities where they can practice, like I said, throughout that 3-month period from December, January, February, and March, it is essential that we have competitions and create, make sure that the event is hosted every year, because it kind of serves as a training ground for the athletes that need it the most. Yep. And it is easy to slip through the window of importance to other sports that don't have that concern, or other even outdoor running. You can pretty much find a place to run, a track to run on, but indoor running is different. Yeah. And it comes at a time when it's difficult. It's difficult to find venues and also, be able to host the events. So we've been fortunate to. Colgate Palmolive is really ingenious in that they have been dedicated for almost a half a century now to making sure that the program continues, and they've invested a tremendous amount in making sure that it stays an indoor event. I mean, we did have to have an outdoor event for a couple of years in the past few years because of the pandemic, but then we lose out on having the ability to train during the critical times during the winter. Yeah. And so, it is a challenge, and we want it to grow. We want people from the running community at large to feel that they have a home or a place in the indoor running track. I know it's different because the longer distances, it's tough to run on a 200-meter bank track for that. But we do have events going up to the metric mile, and who knows, maybe we'll do more in time. But I feel like it is essential. And, I believe that we'll continue to grow as a community. In fact, with us coming upon our 50th anniversary, the thousands of girls that have been a part of the Colgate Women's Games for decades now are charged up to celebrate the 50th anniversary next year. But before we get to the 50th anniversary, we want to let everybody, all your listeners know that we are open for the 49th season right now. We're just kicking off our registration day on November 30th. So entries are open right now for anyone, any girl who's in first grade through college and beyond that wants to experience the games, whether it be the first time or just to come back indoors with us, because we're returning indoors. Competition will be held at the Armory, the Nike Track and Field Center at the Armory, and registration entry forms are online at ColgateWomen'sGames.com right now. Yeah. So anyone who's interested in learning more about the event and also who's interested in possibly participating, they can go there and sign up. Registration is open until, I want to say, January 5th.
Okay.
But the competition begins December 29th. Mm-hmm. And so they have about a month between now and then to register. And we want to make sure that anybody that is interested in participating knows that they're given, it's free, first of all.
Yes.
And that they're given a free t-shirt and products and a bib, all those good things. And they pick those things up on registration day, November 30th at the Armory or December 14th at Pratt Institute. So in Brooklyn. So yeah, our roots were in Brooklyn, and so we still have connections there. They can come any day. And I feel like once folks experience it, once you step through the door and you see the look on a first grader's face who has never participated in the sport, and you see that same first grader the next week, because we run preliminary rounds, giving them a chance to learn how to compete, how to fall down and get back up, how to encourage and be encouraged. Once you see that, that light turn on, like, I didn't do so well, but everybody here was encouraging me, and I'm going to come back next week. I feel good about myself. Mm-hmm. That is really just, it really invigorates you. And so I think, we want to encourage people, your listeners, tomorrow, November 30th, at the Nike Track and Field Center at the Armory. They can just come on in. There's no barriers to being able to participate and no charge to sign up for the event.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wish I lived closer. I do have a first grader. I do know how good that feels, seeing something click in her, at least from my own experience of, I can do this. And sometimes I won't get it right the first time. So anyone who does live anywhere near, be sure to go sign up, get your kids involved. It's a really, really important event. Something, as Cheryl has said, 49 years of work here, started by your coach and mentor, Fred Thompson, who you've mentioned in this episode. And I also want to just speak quickly to the fact that for listeners, if you have not been to the Armory or your kids haven't been to the Armory, taking them there is having them run on that track. There's something really magical about that building. It will really. It is such a cool experience for anyone.
It really is.
If there's any race you wanted them to just kind of go out there and have fun and learn, the Armory is it for sure.
And they can choose whatever event they want to run. They can choose any 2 events, 1 week for the preliminaries and come back the next week and try a couple of different events if they don't like the ones that they signed up for. And the best part about it is the culmination of the series is based on how athletes perform over the course of the series. And the top 200 and some odd participants across the 6 divisions that we have will participate in the finals and have an opportunity to win scholarships, educational
So cool.
scholarships that the value was doubled in the last couple of years. So the top awards
and you give over 100
nice.
Scholarships awarded.
Over 100 scholarships are granted each and every year to each and every division, starting from elementary school. Can you imagine a third grader getting a scholarship? All right. So starting from elementary school through college and beyond. So there are like 8 events, 37 events altogether, but 8 divisions, and the athletes are encouraged to participate in whatever events they feel comfortable with, but they're not restricted to those events. And, it really makes it easy for them to learn, to see what it is they may be good at. Yeah,
thank you for sharing that. Now, before we wrap up here, I want to just kind of demonstrate what you were saying of the importance of what you learned from your coach and mentor, Fred, about resilience, about getting through things that are tough, about falling down and getting back up again. You have the ultimate example of that. You did mention running in the Olympic Games, and the team you were a part of for Team USA came back with the silver medal in the 4x400. But it wasn't a straightforward process, at least in the qualifying rounds. So can you share with us the story about what happened there that could have allowed you to easily derail yourself if you hadn't have been in the right mindset?
Right. So we were in the trials of the women's 4x400 meter relay. I was on the third leg. So at the baton exchange, when the second runner was coming in to hand off the baton to the third runner, there was a collision right in front of me. A girl had dropped. We were, I think, in like 4th place at the time, the U.S. top 4 qualified. And there was a baton, sort of a traffic jam at the baton exchange. When I turned around to grab the baton from the incoming runner from second leg, and I took one step forward, the runner in front of me, who had crossed over to get the inside lane, fell. And I had to navigate how to get around her without falling myself. So in the pause of trying to just get around her and not create another incident, someone crashed into the back of me, stepped on the heel of my shoe, and so it was stuck halfway on, halfway off. So instinctively, I thought, this is not good. I have to run a 400 meters. I can't run with a shoe halfway on, halfway off. So I kind of just jolted it to make it go off altogether. So I ended up running that third leg with one of my shoes on and the other one completely off. I was barefoot. And I just remember thinking to myself, wow, I'm all the way in Munich, Germany, running the third leg of the women's 4x4 with one shoe on and one shoe off. That must really look silly. But I'll tell you, it took the focus and the tension off. Because in that moment, I just sort of relaxed and thought, but you got to run this leg and you got to help Team USA qualify for the finals. So just run.
Yeah.
Just run. Do what you've been trained to do. And I thought of all the people in my community, at the games, on the U.S. team, at home, who were really like rooting us on. And I thought, you better figure it out. And all those things you learn when you're at practice, all those times you fall and you get back up, all those times you have a bad race and you go home and you just want to like sink your head in the pillow and not lift it up. I thought about all those times how I, the next time, got back up and went back out and realized you can do this. Just run. Just run. Just do what you were trained to do. And that got me over. And that attitude, that experience has traveled with me in every single thing I do. I mean, it's always a learning experience, having different challenges that you're faced with in life, because it could be a challenge in sport, at home, on your job, in school, with a friend. But I always reflect back, like, as long as there's a solution, you're good. And the solution then was to just keep running.
Do you think it would have been any different if it was just a 400 rather than a 4x4? Do you think you would have been able to instill that same mindset?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely. Because it was in the training and the preparation. It wasn't in what happened in the moment. That was baked in years and years and years and years ago, from having been through so many different things, having experienced trials and tribulations, that by the time the thing actually happened, I was more prepared for it and tougher than I even thought in that moment, and got through it just fine, you know? So, and again, that's why I like, for athletes, for the young girls that come out to the Colgate Women's Games that don't know anything about track, don't belong to a track team, don't have a coach, don't have a mentor, they all benefit because of the fact that it's a developmental series and they get to try it several times. They're competing in the same arena, first graders, second graders, third graders, as high school and college athletes. So we're all rubbing, elbows with each other, learning from each other, and they get to see how an older, person handles, that challenge, or how they handle the defeat, how they handle the victory. And it starts to shape how they manage themselves in the sport and then in life.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So to wrap here, you've made it pretty clear, but is there anything else you want to add in why it means so much to you now to be giving back, to being a mentor, to being that person to instill those traits you just mentioned to other young girls coming through?
Because it's so very needed. It is so needed. Young girls need the opportunity to be seen, be heard, be front and center, receive the same kind of encouragement that Little League and boys receive. For years, it wasn't like that. And today, even though with the advent of Title IX, there's a lot more equity, but there's still a tremendous need. Look, women have to perform in everything we do. We have to do double duty as student athletes and then as parents. And, if we want to be an athlete, like there's a lot of responsibility on especially a female athletes who are also involved in raising families and all careers and so forth. So I don't think there'll ever not be a time where it's needed, because we have big contributions to make as women in society. And this is one way we can do it. We can help, I call it save lives, or help enhance lives, one athlete at a time, one race at a time, one season at a time. It'll always be a need for that. So I feel it's super important, and I'm loving being a part of this whole mission to make a difference. And I love the fact that I'm allowed the opportunity to continue my passion in my work with the Colgate Women's Games. I can't imagine doing anything else. I know from my own personal experience that it does really make a difference, even though it seems like fun and games, and it is fun. Yeah,
absolutely.
But there's some real serious, it's serious competition going on, and some serious learning going on, serious development going on. And it's shaping leaders for the future. It's, we have like 29, 30 athletes that have gone on to Olympic fame, but many go on to some very successful careers. and just in general, have full lives and carry with them the things that they've learned
for sure
from being involved. And I know you know that, of course, but
yeah. Well, I know the importance of that, but also I want to just finish here for listeners with 29 girls at least have become Olympians who have gone through the Colgate Women's Games. Hundreds have become national champions. So I hope you do take time, Cheryl, to reflect back. I know this wasn't originally your baby, but just on the power of that and the importance of that, and not only the impressive nature of those stats, but also the inspiration that those women go on to give other young girls looking to find a way for themselves or looking to do something, exactly what you're talking about. So, we can't be what we don't see. And so I hope you look back on that sometimes and are proud of that, because you've obviously been a key part of this. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. I appreciate all that you continue to do, that fiery passion in you that has helped to grow this and will continue to grow this. Again, I'll put links in the show notes for listeners to go check out the Colgate Women's Games. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Before we go any further, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Running for Real team. Without them, I would not be able to do barely anything compared to what I'm able to do today. They are behind the scenes. They are there for me. I am just so appreciative of them. To Jeremy Nessel, our podcast editor, audio consultant, and someone who's been with me since the start. To Sally Pontarelli, our content and operations manager, who is there day to day doing all the things to help me be successful. To Kelsey Wang, our head of design, and Louise Murphy, our associate designer. And finally, to Sandy Gutierrez, our photographer and content strategist. I am appreciative of all of you and wouldn't be able to do what I do without you. Oh, I really enjoyed that conversation with Cheryl. Thank you so much for listening to us today, for joining us on that conversation. You can check out all the links Cheryl and I talked about today, including be sure to go check out the Colgate Women's Games in the links at the show notes at runningforreal.com/episode 427. You could also find links there to our partners. Thank you to AG1, to Runna, and to HydroPack for your support. Make sure you go take advantage of the discounts and special offers with those brands when you go to runningforreal.com/episode 427. As I said at the beginning of the episode, next week I do have a solo episode updating you on the last half of the year, and there's a lot in there. So there's a lot of nuggets that you wouldn't have seen elsewhere. If I do not speak to you in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of December, and I look forward to seeing you in 2025. Thanks for listening.